Whistleblowing CEO got sacked because he raised concerns over data being moved to China. And this all happened in 2020 and it's only just reached the employment tribunal. And maybe he was right because allegedly they've been blacklisted in 2023 in America. So let's talk about what happened because Ron brought a claim against 6 different respondents. And the tribunal did find that he was automatically dismissed. He suffered a detriment due to his protected disclosures. This employment tribunal took place over 21 days and it's probably something to do with the 7,000 pages of evidence, which the tribunal called unwieldy and in part unnecessary. Ron raised a lot of issues with regards to the involvement of China Reform in the company. Now, China Reform is an investment fund compromising of Chinese state and local government funding. In March 2019, Ron went and met an executive from China Reform. At that meeting, Ron says that he was told he could personally make a lot of money in that investment, which he took as a bribe. And from that meeting, Ron concluded that China Reform were not merely a passive investor. But long after that, China Reform started to say that they wanted someone from them on the board of this company. Between then, Ron had a disagreement with some of the other directors because they were stopping something that he thought could make the company profitable. Ron actually said that he was effing stupid for sabotaging the company. One of the other directors said that his email to Ron was dangerous. And China Reform kept on pushing they wanted first-hand access to information about the company. But China Reform then changed their proposal, and an agreement was then made. Ron then raised further concern. He said China Reform can effectively block or veto any actions by the company, and that they would be ceding control to the Chinese government. He went on to say that being owned and controlled by the Chinese government will definitely make them more of a target for the US government and may even put us at odds with the UK government. This is why you should always go careful what you put in a WhatsApp. So a WhatsApp message to some of the other directors from Ron called someone else a chief sales prevention officer and an urgently do nothing T. In February, it came to Ron's attention that one of the other directors had tried to find out how to sack a CEO due to lack of performance. Ron then wrote to the board setting out his concerns about the appointment of the new China Reform directors. Also then compared the company to the Walking Dead if they were going to be controlled by the Chinese government. Other directors then also came to Ron and they said if the change of the control was going to go forward that they would also resign. Ron also raised concerns about China Reform because he believed that they wanted to dictate hiring and they were clueless to what it takes to run a business. And he continued to raise his concerns throughout these points. During March, Ron started to draft a letter that was called a manifesto. He asked the company's legal counsel for advice on their legal position in regards to this, and therefore the board became aware of his intention. Ron then said that he wasn't prepared to sign the Articles of Association amendments because he didn't believe that China Reform was in the best interest of the company. The company did seek legal advice and they were told that the appointments were lawful and they were under no obligation to refer them to the UK government. In April, Ron received notification that Sky News had issued an article about the potential of China Reform trying to seize control of the company. Ron then sent an email to the directors informing them of his intention to resign. And 2 people responded saying that they also wanted to resign as well. And Ron then followed this up with a further communication with a long letter referred to as a grave concerns letter. Ron then sent out a notification to all of his employees saying that he was resigning. He received a number of responses from members of staff thanking him for his work. He replied to some of them saying, "My fight is not over." The company then decided that the appointment of the China Reform directors would not go ahead and that things could return back to normal. Ron called an all-hands, and at the all-hands, a number of the internal legal team asked Ron if he had written confirmation of the fact his resignation was not accepted. So he then followed it up with a paper trail to say, "I withdraw my resignation." And then one of the other directors had emailed and said that they should accept his resignation and that, in light of the events which occurred, they do not see any scenario where Ron is an appropriate executive for Imagination. They also agreed that he should be dismissed due to his action. He likened it to the captain of a ship which had been involved in a collision. His actions constitute dismissal offences, especially his communications with employees and possibly customers that significantly hurt the company, plus he resigned. And Ron was then called and told that they would not allow him to withdraw his resignation. Following up, the letter to say it's in the best interest to terminate your employment immediately. There was then an article in the EE Times that speculated that Ron was unable to turn the company around, and that was a means of creating a reason to resign. And Ron's wife also worked at the company as the VP of Business and Operations, and they terminated her employment as well. Ron tried to appeal his dismissal, and they said that they were not willing to deal with this as an appeal. As there were so many alleged protected disclosures, the Employment Tribunal decided to group them into 5 different elements. These were the technology transfer, the takeover, a specific technology that Ron was trying to explore that the company blocked, a redomicile, and the appointment of the directors. The technology transfer complaint failed, the takeover failed, the technology and the redomicile passed, and the directors failed. Well, that's a nosy, but it does matter. Ron was on £500,000 a year. And part of his package included a bonus, which was 100% of his salary. And actually, because of a company bonus plan, he also should have been eligible for a massive deal that he signed. It would have been 1.5 or 2 times his annual income. The tribunal did remind Ron that your resignation cannot be unilaterally retracted. And that part of his claim was dismissed. The tribunal did find that the protected disclosures weren't the only reason that he was dismissed. It was the principal reason. There now will be a separate hearing for the remedy for Ron to find out exactly how much he gets.